me being in the Marine Corps, I was very familiar with folding flags. So I grabbed some of the retired Marines that were working with me, four other gentlemen, and we walked over to the health center, and you let us in, and I guided those gentlemen with folding the flag. But once they finished folding the flag, they handed me the flag, in which I did an about face, so I was facing you, and presented you the flag. And as I looked in your eyes, I said, "I'm sorry for your loss."
Yes, and that was a pivotal moment for me because I realized at that moment that that was closure. And I had never experienced any kind of military ceremonial memorial service. I've seen things on TV. I never really, I connected, but I know that when they hand the flag to the next of kin, usually the wife or the husband or, the mother or the father, the children, it is a serious moment of this is it. This is the last, this is the end. And, for me, looking at him, he became a person that shared a moment with me that nobody else on earth could share with me. And I didn't feel alone.
Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of our podcast, Couples Unfiltered, where we talk to other couples about relationships, love, loss, and the journey. I'm Lionel Salisbury.
I'm Natalie Galley Salisbury. We have to start out by saying that we're not licensed therapists, and these discussions are solely based on our opinions from our own life experiences. Today it will just be the two of us. This way you can get to know us and our background and what led us to starting this podcast.
Natalie and I were married on Valentine's Day of 2020. We spent every waking moment together, and I think everybody knows what that was about. We suffered through the pandemic. During that time, she and I were able to have really deep conversations and spend a lot of time outside just sitting together and having discussions about our relationship. We also invited couples in the neighborhood, and we sat down with them, and we were able to have really good in-depth conversations and believe we really had the opportunity to help other couples out. That's what led us to where we are today, being able to just sit here and talk with you all.
Yeah, we enjoyed it so much that we found ourselves purposely creating a judgment-free environment for our friends to come over and just kind of hang out in the backyard and just talk about relationships and the things that happened. And it was very organic and we got excited. So we started talking about maybe doing a podcast and expanding that beyond the backyard and having more couples and having a bigger platform.
Yeah.
So one thing led to another. We met a few people, and with divine intervention, it just came to fruition. And here we are.
Here we are, yeah.
So to give you a little backstory and why we're here and who are we and what gives us the right to be talking about all of these things, we have a little history of our own. And we'll start I'll tell you a little bit about my history. Before I met Lionel, I was married to Greg. And we've been together since the age, I was 17 at the time I met him. He was 25. And Greg had 2 children. And later after marriage, we had 2 children together. We raised 3 of those children. And for about a period of 21 years, he was my soulmate, the person that knew me best, the person that I built a life with. We had many houses, we had family memories, we were making memories, and the plan was to, grow old together. Until a cancer diagnosis kind of took over our lives. And in 2017, he passed away after a long battle with melanoma, about a 6-year battle with melanoma. And so my future, what I had planned, completely vanished. and my best friend was gone, and I was raising children alone, and found myself in a place that, regardless of how I think I could have prepared myself, I really wasn't prepared for. So it kind of put me in a position to now, not just have been a mother and a wife. Now I'm a mother and a widow. And, I was in a very vulnerable position, but I'm a strong person and I kept going. Yeah. And that's the short version.
Yeah. Well, before I met Natalie, I was married to Deniqua. I call her Nick. We were married for 22 years. She and I both met at Parris Island, South Carolina, as Marine Corps recruits. Uh, this was my best friend, my sister in arms, my chef, and she was also my soulmate. She and I together, we traveled all over the world. Two kids from the Midwest, being able to see just about every stretch of our beautiful world. We have two children together, and we also worked together. We had the same job title. Over the time that we were together, we experienced some challenges, and the strain of the relationship came to a head around 2014, where she and I really had a rough time. Uh, 2018, we decided to separate and start divorce proceedings. Oh, that's my short story.
So, going forward, both of us ended up meeting each other, and that's a very interesting story as well. Um, Lionel was getting ready to transition and out of the Marine Corps.
Yeah, so I was retiring from the Marine Corps after 22 years of service. Um, and during my transitionary period, I was able to work outside of the Marine Corps. So I was getting myself prepared for life after the Marine Corps. I was going to school, and I started working part-time at a military boarding school. Part-time, I was working security. During that time, I really take every job very personally, and I try to do my very best at whatever it is that I'm doing. So during the time, I was walking through campus and I was checking doors and making sure that everything was secure. And I came upon a door, which is the health center, and I pulled on the door to make sure it was secure.
And I walked over to the window and said, "What are you doing?"
You gave me the craziest look on your face. What are you doing? And that was the first time that I met you, the first time I saw you.
Right.
Um, then shortly after, you were gone.
Yeah.
Oh, I
I
didn't.
was taking care of things at home. My husband was very ill, and I was doing in and out, going to work, sometimes not going to work, staying home for a few weeks, going back to work for a week. Wasn't involved at work at all. I was checked out.
I didn't know any of that. I barely knew anybody on campus. But there was word on campus that a young nurse had just lost her husband, and I kind of put two and two together. You not being there, and a few months later, I believe it was around April time frame, I was in the office that I was working in security, and we received a phone call, and I answered the phone, and it was you on the other end, and you asked if there was anyone there that could fold a flag.
Yes. So Greg was in the Army for about 4 years, and I'm a civilian. So, I didn't realize that anyone who serves in the armed forces, if they pass, you can get a US flag. And at the time, I received the flag from the post office,
Yeah.
and the post office folded it up in a square. And all I knew is that I couldn't let that thing touch the ground. So I needed to put it in a triangle shaped shadow box, and I had no idea how to get it in there. So I had called and asked if anyone there knew how. So
Yeah. And me being in the Marine Corps, I was very familiar with folding flags. So I grabbed some of the retired Marines that were working with me. four other gentlemen, and we walked over to the health center, and you let us in, and I guided those gentlemen with folding the flag. But once they finished folding the flag, they handed me the flag, in which I did an about face, so I was facing you, and presented you the flag. And as I looked in your eyes, I said, "I'm sorry for your loss."
Yes, and that was a pivotal moment for me because I realized at that moment that that was closure. And I had never experienced any kind of military ceremonial memorial service. I've seen things on TV. I never really, I connected, but I know that when they hand the flag to the next of kin, usually the wife or the husband or, the mother or the father, the children, it is a serious moment of this is it. This is the last, this is the end. And, for me, looking at him, he became a person that shared a moment with me that nobody else on earth could share with me.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel alone in that moment of closure. And at the time I recognized it, but I didn't really, comprehend it. It was just happening.
Right.
And yeah, so after that, time went on and Lionel moved from security to like a different position where he was a little more involved with the cadets on campus. And he had to frequent the health center because he needed to be paying attention to what was going on with his group of kids. So we became buddies and having lots of conversations at work. We both worked the same shift in the evening. And it made it very easy for me to kind of have this transition back to work while we had these conversations.
Right.
We're just friends, and I think because of that interaction we had with the flag, I feel like he was gentle with me with conversations. He was aware of maybe that I was vulnerable and you were
Well, I cared.
you were very sensitive
you
and
were-
compassionate,
Right.
and I appreciated that. And I also appreciated the fact that, you didn't really know me, and so all you could judge was what you knew, what you were learning about me as
Right.
time went on. So that was great, and I think that I needed to have those conversations with you because anybody else that I would have been talking to would have been asking me if I was okay,
Yeah.
or, I would have been talking about memories and I would have started crying. And, you feel so odd just when you're going through something like that. So,
And it's good to just have just a natural conversation, us being so close in age,
yeah.
2 years and 2 months apart,
Right.
just being able to have that connection. We had a great opportunity to just talk.
Yeah. And there were no romantic feelings. It was, I was going through something. I was mourning the love of my life, and I'm having conversations with this man who's just, it's so easy. And it was zero romantic feelings. We didn't flirt, nothing, but
Well,
there were,
there was, the people that you knew on
Yeah.
campus. So
there were some people that were chatting about, he comes around there all the time. And I think that they're trying to see each other, or, silly things. And one of my friends said, I think he likes you. And I said, I think he's gay. And they were like, why do you think he's gay? And I'm like, because he never tries anything. He doesn't flirt with me. He doesn't, wink at me. Doesn't look at my butt. He doesn't do anything. So, and I had only had any conversations with him about his, because he was married, at the time he was married. And I only knew of his marriage to be fine. Like he never said anything negative. And, he always talked about his wife and his kids. And I knew one of his kids that he had worked at the school with us. So, there was just nothing like that. So, I kind of felt strange about it when people started to talk. So, I kind of told him, I said, hey, I don't know how comfortable I am with the way people are talking. And, I don't need to be known as any homewrecker or some poor widow. I think maybe you need to slow down from coming here so often.
Oh God, yes. I remember that. I remember that so vividly. And my thought was, no, I can't. Like, not just physically, but emotionally. I can I can't not be around you. I enjoyed the time that we spent, and even though it was a friendship, there was something else, and I could not be around you.
Well, I knew that you were feeding my soul, and whatever it was that I needed at the time, you were giving that to me.
Right.
And recognizing that was confusing. But when we did have that actual conversation, I think I said something along the lines of, in another life, we would be perfect for each other.
Oh yeah, I remember that too. And when you said that, the only thing that was stuck in my head was Erica Badu's song "Butterflies,"
Mhm.
and I remember she said that maybe in another life, and it
Yeah.
it stayed in my head. So,
Yeah. And then a light came on for me because I realized, oh, shoot, this guy has maybe feelings for me like
yeah.
that. And then I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I think I do too. But it was so strange because in one part of my heart, a huge part of my heart, I was so fearful, but I also was so sad. And then to think, what's wrong with me that
Right.
I can have these feelings? What's wrong with me? Am I missing the companionship of a person that is everything to me? Am I missing a man, in my life? Am I missing a safe, secure, compassionate, sensitive person to talk to?
Yeah.
So I went through a lot of spinning around in my head about what is it that's going on. But I think we both decided that we needed to be honest with each other. And then he kind of told me the real deal about what was going on at home.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'd been separated in the home for a year or so. Um, Purchased a home to try to mend the relationship and try to make things a little bit better, and it just didn't work. Um, and with the circumstances of being in a new home and having children in college, there's no way I could just leave. I couldn't just separate and leave the house. So uh, Nick, who I like to call her, she and I decided to be separated in the home. So I was in one portion of the home, she was in one portion of the home, and my son was going to college and close to us, and my other son was going to college down the road a bit, and it was the right thing to do. But after I realized that there was something there, that I felt something, then the decision had to be made. That
right. And I agreed that well, I actually at first I discouraged him from moving. I wanted him to stay in the house because I knew there was a lot of things going on that he needed to be present for and take care of. And he was so willing to take care of everything that, I wanted to, out of respect for him and what was going on, I said, maybe you should stay there and, we can we can just be friends and talk, But it didn't turn out that way. So we were having conversations on the phone and we decided that it was best if he moved out. And I felt better actually in the end with justifying, you know, discovering a deeper friendship with him if he wasn't living in the home.
Yeah.
And that if he was actually separated, I would feel a little better about, moving forward with a connection because, it's awkward. It's
Right.
awkward. And honestly, I think some of us have been there and unfortunately the way that people react to things like that is what keeps us from, following our feelings and doing things that are in the best interest of ourselves.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, but we ended up deciding let's have a date.
Yeah.
Let's get outside of this box that we're in because I'm a nurse. I was wearing scrubs and I was stationary in this department. He was freely walking around campus all day. That's just his job. He wore a uniform as well. But every time he would come to visit me, it's like I'm this cartoon character inside of this window, and I look the same every single
With the
time. We have
scrubs.
different conversations. It's a different episode. But we were like, you know what? Let's see each other outside. Like, what if I don't like the way you dressed? And I'm totally turned off. And
Right.
here we go down this huge
What
rabbit
shoes
hole
are
when
you
I'm like,
wearing?
wait, the shoes, no. So I think that that was great. So we decided to meet in a public place.
Yes.
We went to a park, and we had our first date. So it was sparks flying and
It was magical, yeah.
amazing, magical experience. But we'll save that for another discussion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't. I think the fear of dating and divulging this experience to anyone kept us back for a long time. We had a lot of trouble. We were hiding. We felt ashamed.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of emotions. And I would say this was probably about a year. Actually, it was like a year and 3 weeks from the day that Greg passed, that we decided to take our relationship to a deeper level.
Absolutely.
And start dating. And I had a hard time talking to the kids. I didn't tell the kids. I had a hard time. Well, what I had a hard time with is that I was excited and I had no one to tell.
Right.
And I wanted to share that
exactly
with somebody,
And it's tough.
we shared it with each other.
Yes, we did.
But I wanted to share it with people that I cared about. There's a lot of people that were worried about me and concerned, which is weird because if you think about it, when you're in a relationship with someone and you divorce and just say it was not amicable, the people on the one side, the wife, or I'm just gonna say the wife's side, they were like, oh, you need to get out there and start dating and, you need to find your love and do all these things, right? But then there's the people that, with this situation where they have an expectation of how long I'm supposed to wait before this happens. And generally what it is that they're not ready. And they want to feel that signal in their mind that they're ready to see me with someone else.
Right. Everything changes. Everything changes. It doesn't just change for you as the individual, but the people that are watching, the people that are your closest friends.
Right.
Your life changes their lives as well.
Right.
So it's tough to make sure that try to have everybody on board with the decisions that you're making.
Right. And, I had people actually say things to me like, oh, what's wrong with her? Is she okay? Like, is she making the right decision? She's probably, everybody says you're supposed to wait a year after someone passes before you make any big decisions, And I think that people were afraid for me. They were afraid for my kids because, my kids were young. My son was 6. My daughter was 14. The 2 older kids were 26 and 31. And, they just had never dealt with anything like that.
Right.
And they had only seen me and their father together for as far back as they can remember.
Right.
Even the oldest, she never has seen us with anyone else. So when you're making these decisions, you're considering everyone's feelings.
Absolutely.
And I think, moving through this relationship, you expect support from other people, but it kind of sucks when you can't really count on that. You can't go out there and bring people in and tell them the story because they just don't understand. They don't care about the love, the new love found. They care about how come you're not, still sad about what you've left behind?
Exactly.
What about everyone else? And so we found ourselves in a position of, what about us? We've suffered a lot of heartache. And now I feel like my heart is healing. So why is this such a bad thing? Why is this thing so horrible now?
Well, that was something that I had to deal with as well, just on a different scale because I'm separated. I'm going through divorce proceedings. I am ending a relationship. And how is this affecting the people that are around me, my family, her family, our children? How is this affecting everyone? And then moving on into another relationship, starting something. There's a lot of feelings of guilt, which we normally go through. There's a lot of feelings of failure. And I don't think that anyone should feel that having to leave a relationship or a situation that has began to fray, that's a sign of failure. It's actually a sign of strength.
Right.
It's a sign of courage to say, okay, I need to step away from this situation, which is not helping me, which is not allowing me to continue to grow, or which is actually hurting me.
And I think as humans, we all need, I think we all have the basic needs, right? We need to drink water and eat food and sleep.
Yes.
But we also need a connection with something or someone. I always will need a connection, a deep connection with someone. I'm a relationship person. I am not a, fly by night friend. I take every relationship that I have with people very seriously, and each one is unique. But I also, feel that other people deserve to have that. And we also want to be examples, for our children, and, teach them how to move forward by making choices sometimes that they're not in the best interest of everyone else, just, for you.
Absolutely.
But we tend to take the negative things that have happened to us in the past and carry those forward into our present and our future, and let those negative things kind of define who we are.
Right. That's our scar tissue. You've been hurt, and now you got this coating over that pain, and we carry that with us, but we forget about the joy.
Yeah, we forget about the joy. We don't bring that joy. So I decided to actually bring those good memories, and because my relationship was not perfect, and although the last 5 years of our relationship, my relationship with Greg was different. We were closer than I think we've ever been.
Yeah.
But, prior to that, we had our challenges, and, we didn't really show it. A lot of people didn't know it. And to my detriment, I think it affected how people saw me moving forward, because they were, their response was, well, how can you do that so quickly? And you just forget about them. But what people don't realize, and I think, well, the people who do understand realize, is that we have the capacity in our hearts to love more than one person at the same time. It is possible. But also the space that I had in my heart for Greg, it was exploded open, and it was bleeding. And although I can patch it up as much as I want to, that space is still there, and it's painful.
Yeah.
And when you came along, I felt that space healing, although the love is still there just as much.
Right.
But my heart is bigger now, and I have room for you, and I have room for many people. And it's two different things. It's not like I stopped loving him and start loving you.
Yeah.
It's just all there, all together.
Well, that's how it was with Nick. She and I, she was my best friend, and she and I communicated every day. We would talk every day. We encouraged each other. She knew about our relationship. She had started a relationship, and she was happy.
Yeah.
She was getting to know who she was again. And that was lovely.
So going forward, we decided that it was time for our families to meet each other.
Yes.
My kids, my little guy met him, and, of course, he just loved him. He didn't have any, he didn't even associate anything negative at all. My daughter, however, she tried to hate him. She even told me, I'm not going to like him. I'm not going to like him. And then after the first meet, I think they cooked chicken and waffles together in the kitchen. And I asked her later, I said, what do you think about Lionel? She goes, he's adorable. I'm going to try to hate him, but I don't think it's going to happen. Something like that, she said. But so we met each other's families. He met my side, and he also met Greg's side.
Yes.
He met my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, who I was very close to. And they really liked him. I'm sure they had their own thoughts at the time, but it seemed to me that they really liked him. And then we even traveled to Ohio for me to meet his side of the family.
Yes, we did.
And we went to Youngstown and hung out.
Yeah.
And then we were there for about 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, there's about.
And we came back.
Yeah, we got back home. And when we did, I was able to have a conversation with Nick.
It was January 8th.
January 8th. We had been going back and forth about the divorce proceedings, and she had finally made a decision that, okay, I'm going to sign the papers and I'm ready to move on. Feel like I'm in this perfect space to be able to completely move on. And we spent 4 hours on the phone going through every aspect of our relationship. We compiled 22 years into a 4-hour conversation, and we laughed, we cried, we yelled, we fought. But at the end of the conversation, we told each other that we love each other. And we got off the phone. And unfortunately, 2 days later, she passed away from complications of alcoholism and hypertension. And I lost my best friend. And I think when you've been together with someone for that long, for that much time, that is the person that knows you better than anybody on the face of this earth. They know every secret, every intimate detail about you, and you lose a part of yourself.
Yeah, the part that they created.
Yeah.
You know, you're with somebody all those years, and you evolve together, and you become who you are because of being with them.
Absolutely.
Right.
That day when she passed away, I wasn't there. My son was there, and he called me and told me that she passed away. And he told me that he spent 10 minutes trying to save her. He administered CPR to her for 10 minutes. It's difficult when you try to put together the pieces of what just happened. Your life just completely changed, and not just your life, but the life of your children. You know, my boys were 19 and 20. They were adults, but they lost their mom. And I wasn't living at the house and was trying to figure out, how do we do this? And I talked to my son and I asked him, I said, hey, what do you want to do? He's in college. He's living in the house. He's living cities away from where I'm living. And he said, I want to continue to go to school. And I said, okay, we'll figure this out. I'll come up every day and we'll make sure things are going okay and we'll just figure it out.
And it was about a 2-hour drive, depending on the time of day.
And a few days after Nick's passing, Noah struggled. And he had a very difficult time and he needed help. And I understand that we all did. We all needed help. We needed somebody to tell us what just happened and help us to understand, how do we deal with our emotions and deal with our feelings, and how do we put this in the proper perspective. And he had the courage to pick up the phone and say, I need to talk to someone. And that is what he did. With that, we're very thankful for our sponsors, BetterHelp. Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in a world who's going through a hard time, therapy can give you tools to approach your life in a very different way. And this is why we're excited to tell you about our sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding therapy easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in the description. It's betterhelp.com/couplesunfiltered. Clicking that link helps support this channel. But it also gets 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. And because finding a therapist is a little like dating, if you don't really fit with that therapist, which is a common thing, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. When I lost my first wife to a terminal illness, therapy helped me navigate my feelings, as well as help me communicate with my children about losing their mother. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/couplesunfiltered. That's better, HELP.com/couplesunfiltered. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel.
So I was in a perfect position to help Lionel because I had just gone through this. So I was very blessed to be able to be there for him and help him through all of the details of, the business of what happens when someone passes away.
Yeah.
And it was healing for me to help him through that because I feel like that he had helped me so much, even if he didn't realize it. I was able to help him now go through this sad journey with him together. Now we are dealing with this thing together and completely understanding each other's feelings. There's never any question about why I would cry in the middle of the night, why we would be talking about something silly, and then I'd just start crying and apologizing and thinking he didn't understand. All of a sudden, we found ourselves crying together and talking about our spouses in such a way that it was, so endearing because it was all about the good memories and the positive things.
Right.
And it was so great to have that support from someone else. Usually when you're in a new relationship, you can't talk about your old relationship in a positive way. You can't say you miss them.
Right.
You can't say, that you want to see them again and things like that. You don't talk like that. But we were able to do that because we had such respect for each other.
Yeah.
And what we had, and we would have been that way, I think, anyway.
I think so.
But we had such respect for each other, and we understood completely what each other had just gone through, and we were equally mourning, our spouses. We were mourning for our children's mourning. They were going through something, and the family members, my mother-in-law was mourning her son, and he, would go to her and have conversations with her and make her feel better. And, he got to know my sister-in-law, and we were all enjoying each other's company.
Right.
We decided at a point where we had been on vacation together prior to this. We had gone on a 10-day date to Antigua, and we kind of really got to know each other there. And we decided kind of there that, we've done this before. Yeah. We know what marriage is about. Yeah. We know what we don't want to bring into this new relationship. And we know what worked and what didn't work, and the things that we loved, who we were with our spouses. We want to bring those things into this relationship. But we kind of say we have the cheat code, the gaming term cheat code.
You already know the pitfalls
of marriage. Yeah. We know how it kind of works. Yeah. So we didn't need to do all the BS, dating and all of that. I mean, we still do. We still do date.
Yeah.
But we didn't have to do it in order to feel each other out. We knew where we wanted to go. So
yeah, we were able to have, open and honest communication with one another about what it is that we wanted in the relationship. And I mean, we talked about not getting married.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest conversations because you had been married for 26 years. I was married for 22 years.
Well, I also was like, my kids, are they ready to have a stepdad? Right. And, all the things that come with that. It's like, we don't need to get married. We can just get the Costco card. So, we got the Costco card and then we, shop together. We didn't live together yet. We decided that Noah needed to live closer.
Yeah.
So we sold the house, and then The boys lived together for a while.
Mhm.
And then we ended up moving in together because he had the second place and it was just too much money. It was just waste of money. So we decided to buy a house.
Yeah.
So we actually built a house
We built
together.
a
We
house
built a
together.
house together not physically, but from the ground up.
No, we didn't do it by our hands.
We
I
picked
would not know
everything
how to do
out.
that.
And yeah, we made decisions together, like huge decisions together. And then we moved into the house. That was in November timeframe, November
Yes.
2019.
Mhm.
Pretty quick.
Yes.
And we decided, we weren't going to get married.
Yeah, we just lived together and
But then we started talking about it because we started thinking about, okay, like for us, it just made more sense that, I didn't want to be the girlfriend,
Yeah.
it's strange to be the girlfriend,
of
right?
course.
And he could certainly call me his wife, but it wouldn't have been the same without having a ring on my finger. I kind of felt like that was something I needed. And, there were some benefits to marrying a retired military man. And like I said, I'm a civilian, so I didn't really know all these things, but there were some benefits. And I have to say that I had some guilt because I was going to be piggybacking on the sacrifices that Nick made while you guys were married. And she had all the sacrifices of you being deployed and worrying about you going to war and all of those things. And here I was getting ready to benefit from everything, but without all the sacrifices. So I had a little shame in regards to that. But we talked about it and decided, you know what? I would like for my children to go to college for free in California. Your name sounds kind of cool. I don't mind adding that to mine, I think our kids would have... I think our kids are doing better knowing that we're in a stable kind of forever relationship.
Yes, absolutely.
And because societal, influences also say that when you're married, it's forever, right? So I feel like we could have said that regardless if we were married or not. But I think for the kids' sake, it made them feel more stable. And for my older kids' sake, it made them feel like their brother and sister were going to have a, person in their life that was going to help me raise them.
Yes.
And that made them feel more comfortable. It made me feel more safe to know that, you were signing on to be my kid's stepdad.
I mean, for me, that level of commitment, that doesn't just come from anywhere. And yes, there's fear. There's fear associated with getting married. There's fear associated with starting over. And again, that scar tissue is there. But I have this thing where I say I'm living without skin. So I'm willing to feel pain to be able to experience some level of joy.
Mm.
And that's what I was more than willing to do.
Our kids are like paparazzi.
They are.
And we have to set an example.
Yes.
All
Every
the
day,
time.
every day, yes.
Constantly. And we decided that with our previous spouses or with everyone, when they're raising their children together, whoever you're with, or raising your children alone, when you're doing it for the first time, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You're just doing it. You're trying to survive. You're raising the kids, you're figuring it out. You're making mistakes. You're getting the lessons. And so you raise them, and it's just the way it is. Naturally, it comes about, right? Yes. But we had the option. We had an amazing option placed in front of us to now consciously show our kids what a married couple should look like.
Right.
And not that it didn't look like that before, but, you wanted Leela, my daughter, to see what a man in her life or a partner in her life, how she should be treated.
Yes.
And, she was watching constantly. Every time you opened a door for me, or even now, or every time you get in the kitchen and cook a meal, she's watching.
Yeah.
And that was important to me. That was important to me to make sure that the kids were aware that, I love this man and this man loves you. We love each other's children, and it's just really working out. Our kids are like the same child. We have 4 kids, only one of them's living at home right now. And they're all the same.
Yeah.
They're all this. They all speak Pokemon.
They speak Pokemon.
And we don't know what they're talking about. They're sitting in the corner, but they're laughing and they're giggling, and it makes us happy to see that they're happy.
They're happy.
Yeah.
And they're happy because they can see the dialogue between you and I, and they're able to hear the conversations, even when we disagree. They're able to be present with a disagreement because we disagree and we fight fairly.
Right.
And we communicate.
Right.
I think communication is the biggest key in a sustainable relationship, whatever the relationship is.
Mhm.
In our case, is the marriage. Communication is the key. I like to talk. I like to be present in the moment, and I don't want anything to linger. If we have a situation, we sit down, we talk it out. We don't leave the space until that issue has been solved.
And Lionel has spoken. That is the truth. Whenever we have any kind of disagreement, or I'm in any kind of hormonal state, which lately has been often, he doesn't let me leave the room, and I'm a walk awayer.
Well, it's not,
He's not holding me down. He's not holding me down. But sometimes I just want to be quiet. Like, I don't want to have a conversation. I don't want to talk about it. But the reason that we do, and I am able to talk about it, is because you take the ego out of it. And you allow me to be vulnerable with you in a safe environment.
Right.
And so our conversations are very ego-less, We talk about how each other feels about each thing, going back and forth.
Right.
And, we don't want to hurt each other. And, you when you're with someone, you tell yourself, I love this person, and if I want to die for this person, I will die for this person.
Absolutely.
And if that feeling ever goes away,
Mm-hmm.
that means I don't feel safe and secure anymore, and maybe I need to second guess this relationship, But yeah, we were able to have these great conversations and communicate, and I don't ever want to guess, what you're thinking. I want to know what you're thinking all of the time.
Right.
And I don't want to assume that, because you like, the color blue, that every time we do something, you're going to choose the color blue.
Right.
I want to know what you're feeling in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're feeling, purple, or if you're feeling black, it's okay.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I want to know so we can make the decisions together.
Absolutely.
And it's such a secure way to feel in a relationship. And so we've had a lot of healing.
Yes.
And our healing has been divine because we, experienced the same thing, but we also had a lot of the same experiences being married for so long and before we, met each other. Being in any kind of long-term relationship is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And, we want everyone else to share their stories with us about the challenges, they've gone through in their relationships.
Absolutely.
Because we know there's some people that have had some stories of, unusual situations, or they feel shameful, or, they're feeling alone in some of the problems that they're having in their relationship now. And there's something about, being young, learning some lessons,
Mm-hmm.
and then growing older. Maybe you've been in a long-term relationship and it's ended in divorce, or ended in just separation. It didn't work out, or you were betrayed somehow. Yeah. And then you find yourself in the space in between that separation and now,
right.
or the separation and in between your current love, where you don't believe that you can actually love someone again. And was that time that you had, that was your only time? Like, was that your time in your life, or your one love?
Mm-hmm.
And can you love another person? Like, we believe that our soulmates passed. Our soulmates passed away. But there's this thing called a twin flame. And it's kind of your last love of your life. And that's where we feel that we are now.
Yes, absolutely.
And hopefully we never have to find out any different. But we want to navigate these things with other couples.
Yes,
and we want to hear about those challenges that still got you to where you are now, but how it's been helpful to keep that love and that flame going.
Exactly.
And it's amazing to hear these stories. I want to hear about the stuff that's hard.
Yeah, I do too. And I think with us having gone through it, our stories, and I'm talking about all the couples that will be able to grace us here, will be able to help someone else.
Yeah, so
Help.
we want to interview other couples,
Yes.
and we're looking for other couples. We want to hear your story. So yeah, you can reach out. We want to sit down with you and hear your story. You can listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and you can follow us on Instagram at couples_unfiltered. And you can reach out to us by email if you'd like.
Yes, absolutely.
Let us know if you're interested in being a couple on our show.
Great.
That would be couplesunfiltered333@gmail.com.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.